Alright, let's start right in with the New England blizzard here. We're going to take a look very quickly here at the current surface map. We have this afternoon, Monday evening, the cold front, the Arctic front moving across the northeast right now. This system is going to, we have pressure falls along the New Jersey and Delmarva Peninsula here. This is going to continue to happen. And this whole area across northern New York into New England here, Long Island, will fill in with snowfall during the next 6 to 12 hours here. So we're looking at this system. Look at these temperatures behind this system, minus 10s, 20s, and even minus 30s. And if you go further up into Canada, we have minus 60s going on. So that is what we've got here in the upper Midwest. We've got wind chill warnings. We got temperatures below zero. And we got this system moving across the south here, and 60s out ahead of it in the Carolinas. Here out west, we don't have too much going on. We'll be waiting on a small system. Let's take a look at liquid precipitation amounts. Most of the precipitation will be with that New England system that I'm going to get right into here, and along the Washington coast where we could get upwards of an inch. But let's get right into the New England system here. We've got snowfall accumulations. I've kind of squeezed the snowfall accumulations down because this trough axis that's going to happen here, this low pressure that moves right down through the Hudson Valley here of New York, will team up with this low that we're getting pressure falls along the New Jersey coast. They're going to move and coincide together, but there's going to be a trough, this inverted trough in between, and where this inverted trough sets up, that's where the heaviest snowfall is going to be. And we're looking on the order of 1 to 3 inches back across, with the exception for the lake belt areas here. 1 to 3 inches across upstate New York, northeast Pennsylvania, Poconos and Catskills, 1 to 3. Probably New York City will be looking anywhere about 1, maybe up to 2 inches. We'll see with that. Across Long Island, probably 3 or 4 inches on the eastern tip of Long Island. But it's here we get into Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, and eastern Vermont. That's where in southern Maine, that's where things really start to get problematic. And I'll show you exactly why here in a minute. We've got this inverted trough, and it's going to squeeze those accumulations down, but it's going to intensify the snow band. It's going to be like a band of snow, bands of snow that intensify along this trough axis. And we've seen this in the past where systems really get ramped up along the New England coast, and we get this trough axis, and where we get that trough axis, that's where we get the greatest lift, the greatest omega, and we get all of this lift and moisture going on, and this is where it's going to squeeze on out across central New England here. Now, it's debatable where it sets up. I see the National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory for Boston, winter storm warnings for Cape Cod, and winter storm warnings also for southeast New Hampshire, extreme down east Maine, and winter weather advisories further inland. I am looking at about 2 to 4 inches in western Connecticut, western part of Rhode Island, and the western part of Massachusetts, maybe up to 6 inches near Worcester. And then we're looking at here towards Boston. This is where things become very problematic, because Boston could end up with a ton or a medium amount. Right now for Boston, I'm going with 7 to 12 inches for Boston. It seems like a big range, but I'm going to show you why I think 7 to 12, anywhere from the low end being 7, the high end being 12 inches. And that's not advisory criteria, that's warning criteria. And I'm going to show you why I disagree with other media outlets at this time. So we've got the Cape. The Cape could end up, I'm thinking 12 to as much as possibly 18 inches now, once again out on the, especially the eastern tip of the Cape. And here along the New Hampshire coastline, in extending north into some of the southern White Mountains here, this is where we could get upwards of those totals being 10 to 16 inches, and along some of the counties of down east Maine here, this is where we could get 10 to 16, and further inland towards Concord, that's where I'm expecting anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of snow, even though they're under an advisory. 5 to 8 inches is warning criteria. Extending back into Vermont, that's where snowfall totals wind down to 3 to 6 in the southeastern part and 2 to 4. So that is what I'm looking at. Let me show you why. Let's look at the high resolution NAM and zoom right into that. Here is the Cape Cod. Look at this moisture plume. Now, if I put the frames here into motion, you can see this moisture plume as we go on. This is about 18 hours out. This would be about midday during the day on Tuesday. This band gets so intense. Now, the NAM kind of situates it right off the coast, which would just pummel parts of southeastern New Hampshire and Cape Cod. But if this were just, if this follows the trough axis, which should be right across southern New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Cape Cod, this would actually be further slightly west. And of course, being that the low is going to be so strong, it's probably going to intensify to below 990 millibars. We're talking 985, maybe even a little bit lower. This trough axis should allow these bands of snow should ride along it. In places like Cape Cod, Boston, and just southeast of Concord, could really end up with a lot of snow. We're talking snowfall. Look at these. Look at this stripe here. This is on the order of 1, 2, and possibly in the fuchsia colors here, 3 inches an hour. So it's going to really depend exactly where this trough axis sets up. And that's why I have some big ranges like Boston 7 to 12, the Cape 12 to 18. Locally higher amounts. I am really confident that there could be a total out of this somewhere of 24 inches. And I can't say where, because if I knew exactly where the trough axis was, I would be able to tell you anything that probably happens with the weather. So this is something our models need to resolve over the next 12 hours, but this trough axis, those were my totals that I were expecting, and you can see it on the high resolution NAM. This is a bit troubling here, but exciting to weather enthusiasts. So we've got the snow totals for New England, we have that inverted trough I showed you. Now let's get to the lake effect. The lake effect bands coming off of the streamers, coming off of Lake Ontario to the east, they've kind of straightened out. We've saw more than a foot in Oneida County, northern Onondaga, Oswego County, and that band is shifted further north. That's where we'll get anywhere from 5 to 8 inches up here in Lewis County, Watertown. And extending over towards here, this is where things are really going to get going here. Cleveland on up north to Ashtabula County, heading over to Erie, Pennsylvania, up to Dunkirk. This is where things really will get going tonight. We'll probably talking Dunkirk anywhere from 8 to as much as 16 inches, and then extending down towards just east, the suburbs of eastern Cleveland could see anywhere from 14, maybe as much as 25 inches out of this. So keep an eye on that. Don't drive in that. That's a very dangerous bands of snow. Probably thunder and lightning with that as well. So let's kick it into high gear right to the 500 millibar overlay. Set us up for Friday. Let's take a look. We've got this ridge developing in the west. This is where the trough will develop in the panhandle of Texas. And you can see as we move on east, you see these little waves coming across here. And that is going to really feed into an east coast system here. And we've got the southern stream jet. Let's take a look at that scenario. I have not changed it much, although the jet stream is more rounded out. It's more negatively tilted. But the models did something interesting last night and this morning. They keep the low as one solid low and do not regenerate development along the East Coast. Instead, they keep the low down to about 999 millibars across Virginia, and then headed up the East Coast just off of Delmarva, and then move it just southeast of Nantucket. This would give an initial accumulation, and I'm starting to get into accumulations with this storm, of 3 to 6 inches of general accumulation, particularly north of, say, a line of north of Roanoke and Richmond, extending northward. We don't think there's going to be a lot of cold air or warm air that gets into this system. So that's what we're looking at for there, 3 to 6 initially. And then on the backside, as the storm heads up the coast, this is where in New England we could see anywhere from additional 4 to 6 inches of snow out of this. And that 4 to 6 inches will translate probably to 2 to 4 inches back here into New York, Pennsylvania, probably as far south as Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Maybe higher amounts as high as 6 inches here in some of the bigger cities. We'll keep an eye on that. Right now that system is very far out. Let's keep an eye on this New England blizzard, and things are going to go downhill very fast here, especially in eastern Massachusetts, eastern Connecticut, Rhode Island, Cape Cod, eastern New Hampshire, and parts of down east Maine. I'm meteorologist Mark Molnar. Like us on Facebook at MeteoMark. That's where you can get our micro updates on the weather. And subscribe to us on YouTube. Here's a 4-day forecast for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira and the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania.